Crittenden Center out of Sioux City. And Crittenden has 4 centers in Sioux City, and they had an interest in expanding to Lamar's. And so by the community owning a facility, you know, we have control over who the operator is, and then we can gauge what happens within the facility and prepare and keep an eye on that. And so we did enter into an agreement with Crittenden Center. They took over operations on January 2nd, and at the time they took over, there was 38 children being served. As of this morning, there's 96 children being served. They haven't had an open house yet. They haven't gone out and marketed it yet. They just wanted to get the place to their specifications prior to going out and marketing. So if there's ever a doubt that there's a need for childcare in Lamar's, just word of mouth, we increased from 38 to 96 kids, and they're getting 2 to 4 applications on a daily basis. Crittenden will have an open house next week on the 13th from 4 to 7. And so what's happened since it was bought, Crittenden went in there and did a lot of cleaning and upgrading of furniture, fixtures, and equipment. They cleaned a lot of the carpets, they painted a lot of the walls, just a lot of freshening the place up. What was already a nice facility is now top-notch. And so in order for this to work and be successful in the community, it's necessary for the Lamar's Area Daycare Center board to go out and raise the $3 million worth of funds. First of all, we got to thank the Lamar's Area Betterment Foundation for the initial $400,000 to get this started. And so we went out and secured the building. And so over the next 30 to 60 days, the Child Care Center board will do a fundraising campaign with business and industry to raise the remainder of the $3 million. And the request to the city of Lamar's is support of $250,000. And I'm happy to answer any questions. I've got other members of the board here. We've got Dustin Wright from the Betterment Foundation who can answer questions as well.
That has a capacity for 217.
That building has the capacity for 217. There is a second level in that building. If you have not been in it, I would encourage you to go to the open house next week. And then the land directly to the north of the building, there's the ability to build another daycare of that same size if necessary. And then to the west of that building, Steve Schuster owns another acre lot that potentially could be used for future expansion. But with 500, the need for 500 spots, it's not going to be long before there's a need for additional brick and mortar.
Doesn't sound to me like they're gonna need to promote it too much.
Well, Clark,
I mean, market it. It doesn't sound to me like.
and just their performance is their best marketing, the way they manage the place. And we've been very pleased as a board with what they've done so far.
Do they own the one next to North High School up there on the hill?
I don't believe that's theirs, no.
Really, because the signage looks very similar.
They run, I think, 3 of them in Sioux City. But,
Yeah, and I don't know where their locations are. One of them's at one of the hospitals. One of the hospitals recently opened an in-house daycare center, and I know that's with Crittenden. And a comment from Wells Enterprises is they're onboarding children here quite a bit faster than they're onboarding children in Sioux City for the ones that they subsidize. And then there's other industry that is looking at subsidizing childcare for their employees.
Is Crittenden a 24-hour facility?
It is
I know
not.
that's one, it's not.
Yeah.
That's one of the criticisms I've always heard about daycare is just.
Yeah, and I'm not aware of a 24-hour childcare center
I have no clue.
in Northwest Iowa. So,
I have no clue.
yeah.
I will add, and I'm on this board as well, and you can see the board members are listed on page 2 of this proposal, but myself, Mark Gall, and Jason also sit on this board. I've done my fundraising calls already and we're going around to business and industry. We're not going to be asking private citizens for donations here. We feel like we can get it done with a lot of our businesses in Lamar's, but every single one of them, unfortunately, because myself, Mark Gall, and Jason are on the board, are asking us what's the city gonna do? So that's just a natural request, so.
So it's not related to, this question about the 250,000, but the number one up there that this task force is doing, work with existing childcare providers, what is that gonna look like, do you think?
So moving forward, they will continue to meet. And so what happened over the last couple of years is the existing childcare providers were exposed, and Rich Zitlow, if he'd like to come up and talk, he's been a lot more involved with this, identifying who those childcare providers are, bringing them to town to explain what resources are available, and just making these folks aware of the opportunities to grow their existing childcare centers. So more synergy amongst them to find the resources to help them grow. Rich?
Yeah, that's kind of the ongoing, our steering committee that was formed 2 years ago that got us to this point. We spun off the new 501c3. Its focus is on that building, the Crittenden Center, our Lamar's Area Child Care Center. Its focus is there managing that property. Our steering committee, we're gonna redefine ourselves, been working with all the local providers. There's still a capacity with waiting lists, so if you're thinking, are we taking away from our existing providers to fill up this one? We're not. And our goal going forward is we wanna keep them full. Some of them are looking at growing, so our steering committee will continue to work with them and work closely with CCR&R and our Northwest Iowa Child Care, the state agencies that have control over this. So we'll continue that. We'll kind of redefine the board members of that. A lot of those members are now board members of our nonprofit. So this new steering committee, or the ongoing steering committee, will be made up more of the providers and the state agencies that will help them continue to grow, but we'll also be looking at, if they're wanting to add to it, there may be grants out there available that we can get for them, or however we can help them out. So 2 parts of this, one focusing on our great opportunity with our new community-owned childcare, and then also making sure our existing ones are getting the things they need because they're providing as much a service as we will be. Questions?
So with the goal of 3 million, does that include the 400 and the 250?
Okay.
So the goal, the total that needs to be raised is less than that?
Yeah.
Okay. So with that 2.35, I think it would be, so what's the purpose of that? Is that?
So if you go to, we provided you a handout in the fundraising materials. And if you go to page,
It's in the back here.
there's 4 of the fundraising, you'll see the source, and the expenses and the scale of giving. So we had the building purchase of approximately $2.1 million, equipment and updates, $400,000, and then we need a maintenance reserve of $500,000 for those major items that come up over time.
So is it the intent to get the building paid for?
Yes, one of the challenges with childcare around the state, and this is my 3rd community of serving on a childcare board. A community childcare center, if they have debt, they can't cash flow. And so you're seeing the challenge around the state of Iowa is to put an operator in a position to where Crittenden's a 501c3. They're not out to make profit, but we've got to be able to keep childcare affordable, and we've got to put them in a position to be successful. And the only way we can do that is to not have debt against our building and to provide them with the fixtures in order to do that. And the last 2 communities I was in, we did that.
And I would say that the community feels that we've partnered with the best partner to operate this building that we could find in all of Northwest Iowa. And we feel that we've got the best property and location for a daycare in Lamar's, as far as serving, Wells Plant. Our school is our 2nd largest employer. It's right there, so.
And we will own the asset, and then we will have a say in who provides the child care and the quality of child care that will be provided from Lamar's.
Childcare is a long run issue
No question.
for decades. So, I mean, I appreciate the efforts that have gone into this. I think it's, obviously going to be a very helpful thing for our community. Long range is for it to remain owned by the LCDC.
Correct.
I applaud the private drive here, I really do, and I think city participation is warranted. That's for sure. I'm thankful you're only coming at us with that much money. But we need some skin in the game. There's no question. So I got no problem with that. So just to make sure I understood you right, Mark, basically, you want to operate a business with no overhead, because I was actually going to ask, before you ever said that, how does child care cash flow? I mean, I think the lady or the people in the house that have 6 kids, I have no clue, you know, but I'm guessing they make money. But I didn't know how a facility makes money. I had no clue.
The goal is to cash flow. So when you have a building that holds 217 children, and we don't have 217 children in there, you know the overhead, meaning the utilities, the labor costs, the very basic items that you have to have the doors open, they're gonna have a challenge at first to cash flow. Once they're full, my experience with the prior daycare that I worked with, if the building's full and the ratios are right, you cash flow, you don't make money. And so we offered them a 3-year lease at $0. And then after 3 years, we're gonna evaluate. We get their financials on a quarterly basis to monitor the performance of the daycare. So you got a certain amount of expenses, and the only way you're gonna get those expenses paid for is the revenue through the number of children and what you charge. And in order to make childcare affordable, we have to keep the rates at a reasonable price. And what's happening now in industry is industry starting to step up and subsidize that. Not all businesses can, but some will. And the other portion of that is we're gonna go to the same industry, and if we are, as a community, are going to provide a center where we have a quality operator, then we need your help to put them in a position to be successful.
Are there scholarships available
Yes.
for kids?
Yes, Crittenden works both with the state for people that meet income guidelines. They work with those people to find funding to help with that. And then they do go out and look for grants consistently and provide scholarships to different
Are
children.
they a 7-day-a-week program? I know they're not 24,
5.
but they're 5 days a week,
Yeah.
5 days a week, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I think they do some fundraising of their own events and things like that too. Is that separate?
That's separate.
Okay, okay.
Appreciate it.
And I'd make a motion approving the allocation of $250,000 of American Rescue Plan Act funds to Lamar's Area Child Care Center Incorporated for the purchase of a daycare building subject to the final agreement with the City of Lamar's and Lamar's Community Daycare Center Incorporated.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on that? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you.
Thanks, gentlemen. Moving on to discussion items. City Administrator, that one's pretty easy. Nothing? Finance Director, Joe.
I guess the big thing is, next council meeting, February 20th, we will hold our council workshop for the budget for FY25. So that will be including all department heads and go through and
Allocate what, 30
finalized.
minutes for that?
Total, 5 each.
Yeah. All right. that it, Joe?
That's all I got, yep.
All right. Anyone from the council have anything to add, or I'll move to reports?
I have one thing though, there's a concern still on the trail out west of the airport. And this is actually the county grader put all that gravel on the trail. I don't know what we can do about that. And also apparently there's still some folks driving on it. I've talked to Kevin about that a little bit too. It's probably beyond our control, but I don't know what we do about it, so. Just a concern. And I also wanna at some point talk to the people on the Parks Board about a couple other issues that we thought might be a workable solution for some other spots.
Okay.
That's all.
All right. All right, we'll start with reports then. Wastewater is on my list first. Hi, Doug.
Good afternoon. So, I think everybody knows me, but Doug Bassoon, wastewater superintendent. And I knew there's quite a few reports today, so I shortened mine up. Thank you. Starting off with the most important thing, the staff out there. 8 full-time people, we have a fantastic staff, talented, hardworking people. Without them, we couldn't do it. So there's a list of their names, their positions, their certifications, and years of service. Dan Volkin, the oldest operator out there, I think he's got 36 in, maybe 37, we lost track of counting him. It's for a combined total service of 130 years out there. Dan will be retiring at the end of April, so we're losing a lot of talent, knowledge. The top 4 on that list, within 5 to 10 years, are probably gonna be retired. So we've gotta get our young guys up and trained. Why are you looking at that?
You can't retire.
Oh, yes, I can. Not saying I'm gonna, I can. So it's tough to recruit wastewater operators. For some reason, the guidance counselors in high school don't try and push that field. I don't know why. But, so for the year, we treated 792 million gallons of raw wastewater, average of 2.17 million a day. We did 6.8 million pounds of CBOD and 2.8 million pounds of TSS. And then our last
What is CBOD?
carbonaceous biochemical oxygen demand.
Thank you. And TSS?
Total suspended solids.
Okay, thank you.
So our lab is state certified. They performed over 19,600 tests last year. And then every month we do send in our discharge monitoring report to the DNR. That gives us our compliance or violations to them. So for the year, we had 3 E. coli violations. Not simply because our UV disinfection project was not done yet. We are at substantial completion now. We will be ready for disinfection season coming up.
Okay.
So no violations to anything that we had any control over, which is pretty impressive when you look at the next numbers. Our pre-treatment agreement with industries, Wells had 126 violations and DFA Kemp's had 45. So considering what we got handed to us, we did pretty darn good. Which there again, I gotta give a lot of credit to the staff on that. We're monitoring hard, we're making changes all the time, so they stay on top of it. Kind of an old thing that's been going around in 21 that EPA did do that full compliance inspection on us. We finally did receive a letter from them in 23. It was a page and a half long, but just to summarize at the end. Although no follow-up action is contemplated by EPA at this time, we trust all necessary actions will be taken to address any future deficiencies. We got off really lucky. I know some other towns and industries that went through the same inspection and they got handed some pretty hefty fines. The only way that we got off easy, a lot of that was planning and prepping we've been doing towards an upgrade, showing that we are working at it, we're committed to doing it. So they just said, okay, just keep going then.
Right.
So, and then also this year, we applied for an extension to our permit for nutrient reduction, which is phosphorus and nitrogen, chloride limits and DO limits. DNR did give us that extension until July of 2028. It was set for November of 23, so we'd have been starting violations if they wouldn't extend it. This isn't a kick it down the road 5 years deal. It It comes with a compliance schedule. We have to meet deadlines. We have to keep moving forward. So in '23, wastewater staff responded to 15 sewer calls and 27 callbacks by the SCADA system, and they completed over 1,800 work orders. Moving on to our biosolids side of it. 8.4 million gallons of digested biosolids are generated in land applied to 720 acres of farm ground by umbilical injection. Our collection system, we maintain about 72.5 miles of sewer lines. The staff inspects, rebuilds, and repairs 15 lift stations throughout the city. Seems like every year we get another lift station. Mark keeps adding property. And
It's a good problem to have.
unless you're wastewater. Sanitary sewer in section 4 was cleaned this year. 108,000 feet were cleaned, and we televised almost 32,000 feet. That's just part of our preventative maintenance and making sure we don't back somebody up. From there on, just a few pictures. The top one is our UV building project. The right building is our new screenings dumpster storage, and the left building is our actual UV disinfection channel, blower room, mechanical room, and then the space in between is our new dump station for back trucks. And the next pictures are our dump station there. The guys are putting some baffles in there. And then to the right of that is the first load of stuff being dumped into there. So we got to de-water that. And then the bottom picture just kind of showing what happens after it's de-watered, then we cleaned out, put it in a dumpster, and take it to the landfill.
Industry term.
Yeah.
Moving on to the next page there, that picture in the dark is the guys getting going draining an activated tank. Kind of hard to tell. We've got our big bypass pump set up and hoses. We had to pump out both of our activated tanks and replace some diffusers down in there. So on the right-hand side, you can see them little black round tubes. We had to go in there and replace every sock on those. Those are good for 7 to 10 years. It's been 20 years. That's not good, but it's not bad. It caused some problems in the meantime, so they should be done every 7 to 10. And then the last 3 pictures are just kind of stuff that we get into. That's a picture of one of our basements with 4 pumps in there. We had mechanical failure.